right, everybody, we are excited to be here on the Justice Cast. I feel like I'm honored when I get to sit with amazing people, folks who I've been in the mud with for a while. You know, we've been doing this work together. My guest on the Justice Cast is Dr. Antwan Wilson, or as brother to brother, this is Antwan.
That's what's up. That's
And
right.
it's so good. You're currently the president at DSST, Denver School of Science and Technology.
Absolutely.
You've had a great ride, a great journey to this point. Has some DPS fame. Have done some
Yeah.
great work in DPS, and I'll let you brag about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But man, thank you for being here, man.
Absolutely,
Thank
man.
you for
I'm
being here.
excited
Appreciate you.
excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Angela, tell folks why should they know you? Denver people need to know you because you've done what in Denver?
Well, first and foremost, one of the things I'm most proud about is what brought me here. I mean, I worked as principal at Montbello High School. I still love the far northeast.
Have you been in a new building yet?
I have not been in a new building.
Oh.
I look forward to it. One of the things that I'm excited about the new building, many people may not remember, but in 2006, I put in a proposal, revitalization, asking for the building to be redone and all that. So I couldn't be more excited that that has been done.
Yeah.
Heard nothing but great things. Look forward to getting in there.
There's actual windows.
I mean,
You know,
windows,
sunlight coming
stairs,
in, yeah.
I'm told,
Yeah.
and I love the sunlight. It just looks beautiful, and I loved it. It wasn't just the building, but really thinking about the entire campus and the flow of the campus, and really owning that entire block, which
Yeah.
is something I always try to do when I was there, feeling responsible for the entire block.
Yeah.
And so I love to see that. But yeah, I did that for 3 years. I enjoyed it a great deal, but was asked to come down and lead all the high schools. And within a few months, I was leading high schools, middle schools, alternative schools, which I branded to pathway schools, all the college readiness programs, and eventually the turnaround program schools once they had been designated and they gone through the process and they were given to me.
Yeah, a little connection. There's most folks don't know. I mean, my staff knows is that Antwan technically used to be my boss.
Yeah.
Right when I was
Yeah.
at Vernon,
Yeah.
Antwan
Yeah.
became over high schools. He used to be my boss, and that's how we started. Well, first when he was at Montbello,
That's
we
right.
were colleagues, and then Antwan became the boss of all of us.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so-
that was a really quick ascension.
Yeah.
But the Montbello piece, people say, well, why? Well, because when I got there, I was tracked. I was leading a school in Kansas.
Yeah.
We had turned around the school. We were doing a great job. But I visited Montbello, the community, and I was attracted to it immediately because it reminded me of the community I grew up in Kansas.
Yeah.
And I thought the young people were great. I just thought we needed to add a little structure, that type of thing. But, we went from highest disciplines in schools to least disciplines in schools, highest suspension, least suspensions,
Yeah.
most fights, no fights,
Yeah.
things like that. And there was a lot more that needed to be done, but I felt like I did begin to feel like the district needed to concentrate some resources
Yes.
out of Montbello. So like I said, I could not be more excited than knowing that they have done that.
Yeah.
Because that's what the community needs. But after I left there, I went on to be the assistant superintendent, had an opportunity to do that.
Let me pause before you go big time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you got a whole bunch of other big time stuff,
Yeah.
DC and all these
Yeah,
stuff. But
yeah.
one of the things that when, as a community and as a colleague of yours, when we have great leaders, right? Like you were doing great things at Montbello High School, trying to turn that school in a positive direction. I think was Gunn came before.
He was there before me.
Right, Gunn was
Yeah.
before you, and so then you had come in there. We're trying to right the ship to get it back to the Montbello that
Yeah.
was of the '80s and the
Yeah.
'90s, and you were moving things in a great direction.
Yeah.
What often happens in our schools is that we have these well-equipped,
Yeah.
charismatic, know their job
Mhm.
leaders who come in and they do a great job,
Mhm.
but then we pull them out.
Yeah.
And I think when you were pulled out, the school had a rough road.
We struggled. Yeah.
Why do you, and that's not
Mhm.
unique to you. We
Mhm.
see that a lot in education spaces. What do you attribute that to?
Well, a few things. First of all, and I hope it's different now.
Yeah.
But back then, not really appreciating that, schools like Montbello High School can thrive and be awesome, but it really takes an investment on the part of the district to really think about what are all the things that a leader would need in order to be successful. So, for instance, when you come in, how do you make available the best leadership team
Right.
that would make a difference? What are the additional dollars that you're providing above and beyond the per pupil that will allow this school to get off to a great start? And I think you need probably a 3-year, 4-year pot to really try to support. So I went out and got grant dollars to support. But, you know, and the district did a little bit, but not in terms of the additional dollars. What are the things that you need to put in place for the staffing perspective? You know, if you had told me when I came in and within the first couple of years of my bellow, I had been offered other principalships. People were coming in, hey, we want you to come lead here, when you can lead there. I turned them down. So if you had told me, hey, you would be going downtown, or I had no interest in going downtown. But what had happened by my 3rd year was just and again, I have great respect for Michael Bennett and all of those folks, but it's just that I did not feel like that it was sustainable. I mean, I was getting there, and if people who know me know, you know, I was getting there 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, leaving 8, 9 o'clock. Absolutely, and it just wasn't. It wasn't sustainable to do that, and you know, I think that's really the challenge, and so I'm hoping. That you know, and part of what I'm trying to do now as a leader is trying to create the conditions so the leaders have to do that.
I think folks need to hear that, Antwan. It's like we put leaders in situations that require more than the traditional leadership role, right? This is I've heard all the time, like, well, we need a strong instructional leader. Well, that's great. But you got a lot more that is going on campus that that leader has to be equipped, either, like you said, with the amazing leadership team, additional resources, because I've seen other friends who we literally, my kids will tell you, we lived at our building.
Lived there.
Right?
I was there all the time.
Yeah, many times my kids we had family dinner in room 106 at Manual High School because that's what we did.
Our family evening events and all that, for me, was all shaped around Montbello High School. Our Saturdays. It was all about what the events are going on in Montbello High School. And so it is a huge deal. And, you know, I do think that it's really important for districts to recognize that if leaders are burning the candle at both ends, and that's a problem. And people say, well, what are you doing? Well, you know, just trying to give people an opportunity to understand. So I had to be the first person in the building, be there with my facility manager, so I could walk the building, the outside of the building, to make sure there was no graffiti on the wall. On the wall. See, because for me, it was important for me that the students came in, and there were students who would tag it. See, but for me, it's like persistence. I have to show the students who were tagging it that I am more persistent than you. So by the time our students show up to school, it's gone. Okay, so they couldn't figure out how I got it down so quick. Well, I was just up there. I could see
at 4:30 in the morning.
And so we would walk, and we would do all that, and we would get that down. And make sure that, you know, someone tagged the bathroom stalls. We painted it. We fixed it. We cleaned it. We couldn't strip it, then, you know, paint over it. So, and you say, well, why is that important? Well, it's really important for me if students come into the school and they feel like that we are looked at as though we're neglected, we're not important, so on and so forth. But what also ends up happening, and you probably remember this, I used to walk around with a grabber because I didn't like trash laying around. I want the things hung up correctly. I want color in the building. I want all these things. And
my team is understanding some of my tendencies now because they see, maybe you picked that up from Antwan.
It matters. It matters because what ends up happening. But here's the thing: what happens? I remember when I first got there, kids would say, "Well, yeah, Mister, you don't have to pick up the trash. You're the principal." And I was, "Well, you worked it." And the whole idea is it becomes infectious. I used to have students come up to me, man, Mr. Dub, can I get a grabber? Because they wanted to go around and pick it up. So it becomes infectious. And so that's what you're doing. The other thing is, you're so right. You need to have an instructional vision, and you need to understand what quality instruction looks like. Me, fortunately, I was trained on the instructional side. But to be honest, you need to be present. People need to know you are the leader, and that you care greatly, and that you pay attention to everything, and you don't let anything go.
That's right.
And when the young people begin to see that, then they begin to see the value that they actually deserve. They begin to see that people are investing. And the hardest thing for me, there were 2 jobs that were hard to leave. One was Montbello, and then the other was, leading in Oakland. Those 2 were very difficult. Obviously, I love DPS. That's what, being back in Denver, obviously, that was really attractive to me to come back. I love being here. But that community was really hard, but the network at the time, the district at the time, in my opinion, just wasn't prepared to provide that support in what was happening from a family perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, Antwan, this isn't sustainable.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you brought up Oakland real quick, and I want to jump there because
Yeah.
I want people to understand you are a black man,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't hide from that.
Nope.
You can't hide. Much
Nope.
taller, so so they gonna see you coming.
No
right?
doubt. No doubt.
But you were in Oakland, and
Yeah.
and most folks who don't know was like that was not. I'm gonna say it. It wasn't safe,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
there were
that's real.
situations
That's real.
that you were dealing with that those of us who were back here who knew you were praying
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
understood. I mean, death threats,
Yeah, that's real.
right? From just trying to do the right thing.
That's real.
How do you lead through that?
Well, let me say this. First and foremost, the reason why leaving Oakland was really hard was because of how much I believe in the young people and the families. See, because people would be there and they'd be like, well, you're so real, you're not afraid on the ground. I'm talking about the students and the parents.
Yeah.
And the reason why I see because for the early part of my life, I grew up in a neighborhood just like theirs.
Yes.
And my mother and what I experienced was a lot of what they were experiencing. And so I had seen a lot of crazy. Now, see, when you're young, you're going through it, you don't know it's crazy.
No, that's
You
normal.
it was just normal.
Yeah.
Right? But I had seen it, and I had been around it, and I had many relatives who continued to live that way. So I knew it, and so there was a connection. But what it felt like and what I was struggling with, Vernon, it is like, look, I just want the young people to have a great school.
Yeah.
And, they're still dealing with what they're dealing with there because they won't make the tough decisions.
Right.
To contract, so rather than have several schools that are at 30, 40, 50% capacity, which just quick economics lesson, if the school's at 30, 40, 50% capacity, I have to run the school as though it's full.
Right.
But I only got money for half.
Right.
So basically your money doesn't go as far.
Right.
But if you go ahead and contract, make tough decisions, then you can take all that money, and guess what? I can buy counselors.
Right.
I can get mental health. I can make sure you have all the electives you're supposed to have,
Right.
all of that. But they just want to make those decisions. So it was really hard for me to be put in a position where it's like, hey, I'm the face of some movement that I'm not a part of.
Right.
And it was like some takeover of schools. Well, I don't have a takeover of schools.
No.
What was wild, I think, was the hardest thing I would be told. And listen, people say, well, governance. I don't like governance arguments. You say, well, why? I just want young people to have great schools.
Yes.
I've always felt that way. But it's up to that point, in most of my career, I had worked in traditional public schools.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to have great schools. So I went to Oakland with the intent of leading great
Schools.
schools that
Yeah.
we ran.
Right.
But what I was not going to do was, since most of the schools have been authorized, that were charter schools, were authorized by us, say, well, those aren't our responsibility.
Wait, but they authorized.
That
So-
Oakland authorized them.
Right,
But then they argued and said, they dismissed them. No. I visit those schools. Similar to what I experienced here in
Yeah.
DPS. It's like we authorize them, so we have a responsibility to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to get. But what they also didn't understand is that if I don't go in there and see that it's quality, then I can't maintain a justification to why we're supporting
That's
that
right.
school.
That's right.
The school shouldn't exist.
Right.
But if the school is doing a great job and the kids are getting a great education, this is what the parents want, well, I'm not going to go in and say the school should not exist. But what was hard for me was the argument around things that related to adults, and then the private conversations I would hear from some of those same individuals, like, well, we would otherwise support you, but for these political reasons. And that's where I was having a hard time. And,
Yeah.
and then the rhetoric is what leads to the threats.
Right.
And people don't know. And, Oakland is a place, people don't know this, but, in their history, they had a superintendent killed.
Yeah.
And that was very real. So, when your mother is staying up late, and I always remember people saying, well, it was a different deal. I remember in a board meeting, people were saying, you get to have police protection. And I was thinking to myself, people who know me know, I don't want any police protection.
No.
This is not a perk
Right.
that I'm walking.
Right.
I have to go around with an
Right.
officer.
Right.
This is a problem.
Right.
I would prefer not to. And the overwhelming majority of people, like I said, were great. But there were these people who were just so wound up in the political argument back and forth.
Now, what year was this, Antwan? Tell folks.
This would have been this was between 2014, the fall of 2014 through 2017.
Yeah, so the reason I want that is I want people to understand, like, they're shocked by some of the stuff that's going on in the world today.
Oh, man.
With certain leadership. And
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, some of us been living this.
So it's been there. So, it's so funny because I see people say that now and they talk about those things. And, my wife and my family look, they say, oh, now they're getting what you were getting that whole time. It's like, no, I experienced that.
Right.
It is like every place you go,
Yeah.
it is a hot spot. And so what began to happen, just try to help people understand, I lived right in the heart of Oakland. But, I'd be at the farmer's market with my kids and family, and people would come up to you, and it started to get dangerous. And luck, again, that's the hard part because those were the outliers, but the outliers were pretty in your face.
Yes.
And the overwhelming majority of people were great. And I remember saying to several community members, like for instance, the NAACP leadership out there was awesome. But I would have certain people would say, hey, we have your back. And I would say, hey, man, I need you to have my front.
Yeah, please.
I need you to be out front with me.
Yeah.
And that was the hard part there. Look, I was very proud that the person who replaced me was on my leadership team, and she was from there. And I just began to feel very strongly that they needed to have someone who was from there. But here's the thing: we have to get out of the out of vilifying folks. Our kids deserve great schools.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's just what that is.
Yeah.
They get to they got to have schools where they get to come in and be themselves. They
Yes.
don't have to be someone else. They get to be
Right.
themselves. But they are taught the math, they're taught the science, they're taught the social studies and language arts, so on and so forth. They get exposed to great electives. They shouldn't have to do without.
Right.
And then we resource the schools at the level they should be resourced so that the young people can pursue the opportunities they want to pursue.
Right.
And this should not be complicated.
Right.
But unfortunately, as you know, because you know that a lot of what we were talking about when you're a leader, you think you're going to go in and really try to make sure the schools are running, and you're spending a lot of your time trying to avoid and protect kids and families from distraction.
That's right.
And that's really the hard part of the work. I will say this, most people, and you know this because you're very similar. Now, I have always been attracted to hard. So I've always been attracted to the places where people said, well, those kids or that school,
They're not gonna do it.
those families. So I didn't want to buy that because I was one of those kids,
Right.
and I went to those schools,
Right.
and I was one of those people you might say that about my family.
Right.
So I don't run from the fact that I am who I am. I am black. I am, my kids. First of all, my background education is all geared towards understanding issues of social justice. My kids have been well versed in that. I'm very proud of the fact that they are very conscious of who they are and
Yes.
how the world works. And I just want that for every kid.
Yeah, so you go to leave schools, you go into the superintendent role, here in Denver, assistant superintendent in all Oakland, and then after Oakland, you make another big step.
Yeah, well, I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
Oh my God,
Now,
did you?
now I didn't recognize that. I'm gonna be honest with you. So DC, I want to say this because in terms of DC public schools,
Yes.
I have worked with some of the most professional, talented people that I've worked with in my career. They were tremendous. Now they had been in a structure that was top down, in my opinion, authoritative, and didn't always appreciate the fact that kids should actually like school too.
Yeah.
So they had systems. Kids come through metal detectors and all that. So I'm thinking the psychology of that.
Yes.
Right. See, because in Oakland. Now, you understand that some of the most impacted communities that you would ever find are in Oakland.
Yes.
But we didn't have metal detectors.
Right.
And we didn't need them.
Right.
And I had a police force.
Yeah.
But we had set up the police force. Well, the police force I had no SROs stationed in my schools.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to be clear. I'm not trying to vilify SROs. What I'm saying is we implemented district-wide restorative practices. Really tried to create an environment where young people felt the school would be the safest place, and
Right.
if there were any things that would threaten that, they would speak up,
Right.
and they did.
Right.
So when I go to DC and I'm like, okay, well, every kid, the first experience is like an airport experience.
Right.
So then what are the things that we need to bring into the school that would say to students, okay, we care about your learning, but we also want to create an environment where you are forgetting the fact that you went through the checks and all that.
Right.
And so, listen, what I heard from the people in DC is you're exactly what we needed. Particularly the teachers and the students and all of that, because we were really, this is what I will say. DC had a persistent achievement gap before I got there. And in my year that I led, that was the first year we had a significant reduction in achievement gap, first year that the district-run schools outpaced and outgrew the charter schools. And the first year that it was significant, not trivial,
Right.
significant movement within the achievement gap between black and brown students and white and Asian students. And I'm very proud of that. That
Yeah.
was very intentional when there to address that. But, so all those glows for DC Public Schools. The issue is DC government. Okay, so what I was not prepared for, and I just always say this, sometimes you just was extremely naive as a leader, because and this is what was a very valuable lesson. So you got to recognize sometimes that what people say they want is not what they really
Right.
want.
Right.
And so, I go in and I trust my boss was the mayor.
Mm.
And so if you go to the mayor and you lay things out there and the mayor tells you this is what you need to do or this is what I want and all of that, and you go do it, and when it becomes politically convenient for them to throw you under the bus, they do. So I learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
But I would not trade the time in DC Public Schools because you got to understand the DC Public Schools. If any of y'all been to DC, the further east you go, then the less affluent it gets, and the less opportunities there.
Yeah.
And the more they need what we provided. But we did a lot of work in that year that they continue to build upon, and some of which they slowed down. But we went hard that year.
John Maxwell says if you never lose if you learn.
Yeah.
Right. And I live by that. And I feel like the journey that you've been on has been a learning journey.
Most definitely.
No losses.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I feel.
You brought up the achievement gap, and you've seen it from Denver, Oakland, DC, everything in between.
Yeah.
Now at DSST, and I wonder why everywhere you've gone, everywhere we've been as leaders, why are we still talking about achievement gaps?
Yeah.
Between black and brown students, between poor students. Now we're talking about students in special education. And all. Why do these gaps still persist? Is the system designed to yield these achievement gaps, or is it something else?
Well, I appreciate the question. And one of the things I loved about Oakland is I could just speak freely about what was happening. Well, the system is designed to get the results it's getting.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear about that. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I'll just kind of give you an example, and so I'll just take it away from the city, because sometimes people feel whatever they want to feel about it. But look, when you go to a city like Oakland or you go to a city like DC, and you can see very clear demarcation lines, right? So they call it the flats, and they call it the highlands, the hills, if you will, and you see the differences in how schools are run. Same district, same network, same program, all that, but the differences.
Yes.
And you can see that there are some design elements here. When you go into DC, and I remember pointing this out to my team, I said, the further west I go, the less regimentation I see. Okay? Kids aren't trusted to walk in lines. They're trusted to get where they're supposed to get and all of that. But I go east, and I'm seeing kids, they have to, do hugs and bubbles, or hold their hands behind. I said, what are we doing?
Right.
Our young people, I said, and then you got to understand, I went to 7 different elementary schools. I went to different elementary every year.
Yeah.
So I was one of those, you talk of single parent, teenage mother, all that. So when I hear people say, well, they need to learn this and that. Yeah, they need to learn it. But see, Miss Thurman was able to get me to walk in a straight line, and I did not have to do this or this, or, blow bubbles or any of that. I was taught to raise my hand and ask what I want. Not just me, all of us were taught to do that. And so there's something that we have conditioned in the minds of people. And I remember when I remember getting interviewed at Montbello, because I remember people came in that first year, and I always remember people were like, well, where are the kids? I said, well, they're in class. And they're like, well, they're not in the hallways. And I said to them, I said, I'm not teaching my students any new manners.
Right.
Said, I'm just holding them to the manners that their families have taught them.
Right.
So that parents have taught them, now we're going to come here, and then they have to show up here. And who wants the school to work better than the kids? And the kids, I got to be here for 7 hours. I want it to be a place I like going. Right. I want to feel valued. So the achievement gap is there in a lot of ways because there is a lack of belief. And I want to be clear, good people perpetuate achievement gap.
Yes, most definitely.
And it is, you have to honestly believe that this kid, whatever the kid we're talking about, whether you're talking about it's a student who has a learning disability, and most people, my wife has worked in special education for 30 years, and one of the things we talk about this is we talk about the fact that you have a student, most young people who have an IEP, and let's talk about that. Most young people have an IEP, those young people have a learning disability. What that means, it means is they just learn differently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But they're going to compete for the same jobs.
Yes.
They're going to need to have learned the same skills, so on and so forth. But they process information differently,
Right.
not deficiently.
Right.
Differently.
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes you say, well, Antwan, how does this relate back to the conversation teaming gaps? Well, sometimes what ends up happening is, and I've done this in most every place I've been, the people will complain and they'll say, well, these students need to be separated. No, they need to receive the services they're supposed to receive. And so I would show the data, and I'd line up a bunch of student data in terms of how they did on assessments, the grade point average, so on and so forth, and I would remove whether or not they were special education or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go through and you'd say, well, what class should these kids be in? And they'll say, well, these kids should be in the regular education class. Then I would put back the designation, and you'd see the students who have disabilities mixed in with the
Yes.
group.
Yeah.
And I say, well, then why is it that when we start putting kids in classes and giving opportunities, we say because the kid has this designation, they don't get these opportunities, and these other students do. So it is a lowering of belief.
Yes.
It is, that's why people talk about opportunity.
Yeah.
It is, do we provide young people the opportunity to learn? And then lastly, young people, no matter what their designation or what the demographic group, they're like adults. We as people, we rise to expectation.
Yes.
Okay? And so, there's a statement saying no one rises to low expectations. Well, we do rise expectations, which means over coercion.
Yeah.
So we must have rules,
Right.
we must have structure, and we can't be afraid to enforce those. And sometimes people will be frustrated with me because I am not afraid to enforce them. We will
Right.
hold them accountable, but it's not, I'm not trying to punish, I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
This is what comes with that. But then there has to be the counter. And the counter is, well, see, I expect you to be in these classes.
Yes.
I expect you to be successful when you struggle. I expect you to go to the tutoring. I expect you to be participating in the extracurricular, co-curriculars. I expect that from you.
Right.
And over time, young people get enough expectation and they start to believe what was always true.
Yes.
And that is that they were always capable.
Yeah, but Principal Kafele says it's a belief gap, right? That's what
Yeah.
we've been dealing with,
Yeah.
the belief gap. We here anchor our work in the expanded opportunities that young people have to have. Those things that we've been doing
Yes.
for a long time, even
Yes.
when the system would push against both of us
That's
to
right.
say, we knew what we were doing.
Not
right?
now, too fast.
Right.
Wrong thing. Instead of this, try this.
Right,
We're
right.
like, no. These young people need these
That's right.
opportunities.
My timekeeper just told me I'm almost at time. We
Yeah.
could talk forever. You're going to have
No
to come
doubt.
back and do more of this.
Let's do it.
But what I want to add, you're at DSST
Yeah.
Public Schools.
Yes.
DSST
Public
Public
Schools.
Schools. Let's say the public schools.
Public schools. Emphasize that.
Yeah, it's not some private takeover.
Mm-hmm.
DSST, Denver School of Science and Technology, is a public charter
Public charter school, go through
And-
the regular enrollment process.
Yeah.
We have 16 schools, 14 in Denver.
Yeah.
Middle schools and high schools. Our mission is to eliminate educational inequity. It's in our mission.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
want to prepare every kid for success in a 4-year school and success in the 21st century. I mean, that's what we're about. We're a core values-based organization. And a big reason why I want to come to be a part of DSST is because, we launched a strategic plan. I've been leading that effort. And it's like, hey, I remember asking the founder, Bill Kurtz, I said, are y'all still hungry to get better? You want to get better? You're still chasing?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. And that's what I found. So it's like, okay, well, we want to make sure we're creating schools and leading schools where students actually do get better.
Yeah.
And teachers are set up to be successful. And, we bring in and try to create environments where those successful educators stay. But at the same time, we want to make sure people understand that what we are trying to create is a network that's centered on the needs of kids, but is also supportive of the adults to help the kids learn.
Yeah.
We center the needs of kids.
Yes.
And that's really important, unapologetically, Vernon, because when we're talking about that achievement gap, opportunity gap, belief gap, sometimes it's because in the other places it's the adults
Yeah.
that get centered. And make no mistake about it, we need the teachers, we
Yeah.
need the leaders,
Yes.
we need the staff, we need the parents, we need all of them. But the young people are at the center.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to get done at DSST.
Dr. Antwan Wilson is going to come back because there's so much more that he and I
let's
can
do it.
unpack because there's a lot more to talk about, and I would love to just do this regularly because I think folks need to, one, hear from folks who've been in it,
Yeah.
and I also think that we represent two faces that I think young people need to see. We don't often see black leadership, black excellence engaging, especially locally, in these conversations about school quality and school excellence and mobilizing parents and believing in kids. there's other folks who are talking about it, talking about us. But I think when they see us
We got to do it.
talking about us, it emboldens them. So man,
We
I
got to
appreciate
do it. We got to
you.
lead it. It makes a difference for our young people. So absolutely, man. Have me back anytime.
No, I appreciate you, brother.
All right, man.